Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show Thanksgiving special. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who was the first American to ever invite me to his family's Thanksgiving. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I find that very hard to believe.
Really?
Aren't you married to an American?
Well, that doesn't count.
Okay.
That's my own family.
Okay.
I married into that family.
Oh, okay. I'm with you now. Yeah. Is that true? Really?
Yeah.
Man, you got to get better friends.
It was an eventful Thanksgiving.
It was. Yeah, that was early on in my relationship with my then girlfriend, now wife, as well.
It was also my friend Hugh was visiting. It was his first ever Thanksgiving. It was an experience for him.
Oh, wow. I kind of just assumed you were talking about my wife's family because what I realize now is we're talking about when my parents were still together, which is a very long time ago. That's how long we've been doing the show. Yeah, nothing like divorce to bring down a happy conversation about Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to take us there.
It's all good. It's been a while.
Well, should we get into the spirit?
I'm crying inside.
We have listener questions. I've made them mostly, I picked these questions, they're mostly American themed. Yeah. It's kind of a Thanksgiving theme, right? And I've also got a Thanksgiving special to kick us off.
Yep.
How about you and I actually, genuinely, give the things we're thankful for, mostly in the soccer world, just to kick off the show? Maybe like 2 or 3 each.
Sure.
What you got, Taylor?
Tyler Adams.
You're thankful for Tyler Adams?
You're damn right I am.
Are you getting that in first so I didn't get it?
I mean, I assumed it was going to be in there somewhere, but it's more so looking at the state of U.S. soccer. We talked about their game versus Italy on yesterday's show. I think it was yesterday. That feels like years ago because of how much fun it was to discuss.
It was yesterday. I can
confirm. But I feel like he is representative of the type of player that still gives me optimism for the team going forward.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Paul Tenorio for The Athletic just posted an article, basically, or a good story, talking about how he feels like we need to move away from the just giving players caps to see what they're capable of and more so back to until they prove themselves with regular minutes. They shouldn't be starting.
I actually didn't read the story, but I've read the responses to it on Twitter. Yeah,
and they were mixed as hell. Yeah. But I feel like Tyler Adams...
It's a genuine debate. It's interesting.
It is. But before I get to Tyler Adams, I wanted to say one of his points was that there's this just huge gulf between kind of the players of the 2014, the more veteran era, and a player like Christian Pulisic, who is playing and starting regularly and has justified that spot. And I feel like Tyler Adams is one of the few players that kind of bridges that divide a little bit, where he's a young player who should...
Isn't he the same age as Pulisic?
No, I'm saying in terms of he's another player aside from Christian Pulisic who's young, who's starting regularly at club level, who I think is probably going to get a move to Europe, and I really think will acquit himself well once he does.
Yeah.
And I think therefore justifies that starting spot in the U.S. national team. And I think there's an argument to be made that he may end up being more critical to the U.S.'s future successes and fortunes than Christian Pulisic.
Wow.
I'm not saying I would necessarily make that, but I think you could make that argument that as a more central, potentially defensive midfielder who's tasked with a lot of responsibilities in the middle to free up time and space for attackers, I think he's going to be critical to the U.S. going forward.
We could have a whole debate about that, but I don't want to derail this.
That's fair.
I'm going to say I'm thankful that my other 2 teams are doing well. So Wolves have started the Premier League season very, very nicely, right? They are, I checked their record today, in American terms, 4-4-4.
Okay.
They are 11th in the Premier League. They have not embarrassed themselves. I mean, it could have gone badly, right? Because, for example, Fulham looked really good in the Championship last season. Come up to the Premier League, do the same thing they did in the Championship, got ripped apart.
Fired their manager.
Manager's been fired because things have gone really, really badly for Fulham. It was possible that the same thing would happen with Wolves. Instead, they've looked very steady and basically acquitted themselves well in the Premier League. So I'm genuinely thankful that that's a thing that's happened.
It's almost like having a manager who's adept at tactical configurations and player management is important.
It is.
Who could have thought? Who could have known that one?
Speaking of player management, one thing he did do is for the first, I wrote this down, 9 games, first 9 games, Nuno selected the exact same starting 11 for Wolves. And at the time, I started thinking, this is odd, because it's not like we're winning every game, right? But I wonder if maybe he told those players, no matter what happens, I'm going to select you. You're going to stay in the starting 11 for the first few games, just to give them that base layer of confidence going into the Premier League. It's speculation, but
I doubt he would say don't worry, no matter what you do, you're going to be starting. Yeah. But I imagine he probably gave them.
If Ruben Neves scores 7 own goals deliberately in the first 5 games,
that
he
probably
might have dropped
so well. Yeah. But I imagine it was probably more of he established the like the tradition or tendency of I'm going to tell you maybe 24 hours before the game what my lineup is going to be, or if I'm not going to select you, then I'm going to make that very clear to you up front. And it does seem like he built a layer of trust and accountability that then brings about stability.
Yeah, and to my other team, England.
This is the one. There it is. I was really confused. I was like, are we going to hear about some like non-league West Mids team?
No. We were very, obviously I was very excited during the World Cup, but it's fair to say that maybe the World Cup ended for England on a low because we got knocked out, but also in a way that like, they couldn't break down a defence, they couldn't defend against Croatia, and it felt like maybe England had just got lucky and bounced their way through the tournament.
It's telling to me that you say got knocked out and don't even register the third place game that you also lost.
I do not remember that.
Exactly.
I do not recall. But just to see the bit of progression in the England team in the last few months, winning the UEFA Nations League group and all that, I'm genuinely thankful because for the first time in a long time, after a long time of frustration, I have an England team that I'm really excited about. I'm very thankful for that. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I won't be saying anything about any of my preferred teams. I'll just skip right to a player who has those England connections. I'm thankful for Mr. Wayne Rooney. Which is not a thing I thought I would have said when his arrival or his signing by DC United was rumored and then announced.
Yeah.
I was not on board that train at all. I definitely am now. And I think it's because of how well he's
you have
played.
to get the train to Navy Yards and then walk a bit. But
then eventually you're there. But it's not just because of how well he's done on the field. It's kind of what he's done to help DC United off the field, where suddenly they're a draw, that people want to attend those games again. That, of course, is on-field performance, but it's also him staying dedicated to the team. It's why he's saying, I'm not going to go try to play for England a whole bunch. I'm not going to try to get a loan move in the offseason.
I love that quote from him.
Yeah, and so it proves that he didn't just come here for money, in my mind. He came here to continue.
He's already got money.
Yeah, true.
Right? But he squeezed Man United hard.
But amongst others, yes. But I guess no, it was just United on like 3 separate occasions. But it's still like you could still make that accusation. They're like, still he wants to come here. Like maybe he's going to get percentage ownership or he's going to get some other incentives. And instead, it just feels like he's just kind of excited to play for a team where he is valued and the fans are really excited about him. And I think
he's like, I remember what this was like. He's like in 2004,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think it even goes so far as like his final cap for England, which happened recently. I believe it was against the United States.
Oh, I remember.
Less said, the better. But even then, it reminded me of like everybody cheering when he came on, and every time he got the ball, the crowd chanting "shoot!" Like it's a good reminder that soccer can be fun when you remove some of the Wayne Rooney is destroying this national team or whatever. When you get rid of some sort of the artificial drama, it's a good reminder that players are humans, and it's a fun game to watch.
All right, sticking with an MLS theme, then I am thankful that the hashtag Save the Crew movement appears to have worked, right? So nothing is signed, sealed, delivered just yet. But there was a story today that outlined a bit of maybe what the details are going to be, and it's essentially that the new owners of the Columbus Crew are going to have to pay £150 million, which is basically an expansion fee, right? And then Precourt can get his team in Austin. So everybody, at least the 3 entities, the Austin team and Precourt, Columbus Crew, and Major League Soccer, everybody gets what they want, right? Yeah. MLS gets an expansion fee, Columbus keeps its team, Precourt gets an Austin team.
And we're all so concerned about what Anthony Precourt gets. I mean, I know we're all very
not
hopeful.
Really, but that was the only way it was going to work out, was for him to get what he wants so that MLS are happy, so that then Columbus Crew can be happy. It's not perfect, and I've seen a lot of people, like say Sacramento fans, are thinking, that takes away another MLS expansion spot from us, which I think is accurate.
Yep.
But at the beginning of the Save the Crew thing, it looked almost impossible. Really, from the outside, it looked like, there's going to be a protest, and they'll go down fighting, but eventually, big business is going to get what it wants. And the fact that it looks like it might happen is one of the best stories, maybe the best story of American soccer in 2018.
Yeah, because I mean, we did the live show in Columbus, and even then, like obviously
the rowdiest live show.
It was very rowdy, but it gave a good indicator of how much that team means to those fans.
Yes,
how much that team means to that city, and to see it sort of work out in the end is
still not official, but I don't want to jinx it. Basically, I'm knocking on the wood.
But it's certainly not a thing that we expected to happen at the time we hoped it would happen.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a very much a long shot. That it seems like much more of a reality now.
Yes.
Is very exciting. I'm thankful for that as well. But in my notes, I'm going to write down Daryl is thankful that Anthony Precourt gets what he wants.
Well, that was sometimes you got to do a deal with the devil.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm also thankful for specifically just Christian Polanco. I just want to start a little feud there. So yes, just Christian Polanco and no one else affiliated with him. And I'm also very thankful, and I mean this sincerely, for people who like Daryl's puns. Because we've talked about this. We talked about this for a while on the train back from a DC game. It's not that I don't like puns. It's just that puns do not make me laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. And when we're doing an audio production, if I don't laugh out loud, then it's either a stunned silence or I'm sort of like, ha, 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 what a clever joke you've made. And then that seems forced.
Wait, are you thankful for something, or are you just defending your lack of laughter at my puns?
It's more so that I'm thankful
that
you're
shoehorning this in.
Are people who enjoy those puns and laugh at those puns. It makes me thankful that there appreciate people who openly laugh at your punny approach. Because even if I will not or do not, there are people out there who enjoy them. Okay. So I appreciate a pun. I'm happy they're there. I'm happy you continue to make them. I don't love the people who send them to us out of spite, which we have one of those today.
I am thankful.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I'm going to assume that you are, though I haven't told you this, for everybody who has supported us. Right? So people who financially contribute to the show, people who listen to the show regularly, 5 days a week is a lot of listens.
Yeah, they're fine.
People who share the show and let people know about the show. So I'm thankful for all those people. I'm also thankful for, this is very specific, but the smaller advertisers that advertise on the show, right? So certain advertisers, you'll hear them all over other podcasts. But if you hear an advertiser only on our show, it's because we've seen that company, reached out and asked them to take a gamble on advertising on the Total Soccer Show. And they've said yes, and it's worked out. So I'm really thankful that someone was willing to take a chance on us in that way.
Yeah, and occasionally the other way around, that we've had advertisers reach out and contact us, and they have been the smaller, more local ones. But that's been equally exciting because people kind of are looking at our program and what we do as an opportunity to get the word out about their product. And it means that they're associating us with a thing that they, I would assume, like and are proud of.
Yeah. You got anything else? I got one more quick one.
Have at it.
If you haven't. I am thankful for our outdoor soccer team.
Yep.
Just the camaraderie that's happened this year. And I'm saying this mostly because there are members of that team that also listen to this show. I just want everybody to know
I'm not thankful for those guys, but the rest of the team, yes.
I love playing on that team. It is the most positive in terms of attitude and atmosphere and just looking forward to being on the field together team I've ever been on.
I would 100% agree with that. And like for what the team is, I think that's also a thing that I'm grateful for, as a reminder that soccer transcends just, do we score a goal, do we win the game? But I will say I do enjoy that team also because it's an opportunity to experiment with tactics and try different stuff in a game and see how it goes. And that people take it seriously means we're able to do that. So I, too, am thankful.
That's true.
And, you and stuff, you're fine. Whatever.
And you and stuff as well.
There we go. Okay.
Are you ready for listener questions?
Let's do it.
So,
like wife and dogs and family and stuff.
They are somewhat Thanksgiving themed. Yeah. The first question today comes from Jesse Frankel. Jesse wants to know, if the US men's national team were a Thanksgiving dish, what dish would they be and why? There's a follow-up question, but I'll wait until we answer this one. So if the US men's national team was a Thanksgiving dish, what dish would they be and why?
All right. Mine might be a little controversial because I'm not sure it's a staple, like a traditional Thanksgiving one.
I have a very liberal approach to what should be on a Thanksgiving
But I'm saying
table.
Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts is what the U.S. national team is.
Okay.
Because under certain circumstances, they're not really the first thing you think of. They're not the most exciting thing. No one in Belgium is clamoring to go eat some Brussels sprouts, similar to no one was really clamoring to see the U.S. play.
Shouldn't have invented them then, should they?
Well, there you go. But if you put enough work in, they can be very exciting and good. Basically, if you add a lot of butter and bacon, which I would say is Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, Weston McKinney, then they can be very good. So basically, they can be both. It can be bland and boring and sort of depressing, or it can be very exciting and a thing that you maybe weren't expecting to be as good, but when it is, you want a lot more of it.
Lovely. You're going to be shocked when you see my answer to the second question. Okay, the first question, the US Thanksgiving dish, they'd be the turkey. The US men's national team would be the turkey, obviously. Here's why. It's taking forever to cook. And we're not quite sure why. We're not sure if the coaching... Did I say coaching search? I meant the cooking process is even over yet. Everyone's quite rightly very concerned about whether or not...
is even over yet?
Even over. No, it wasn't a pun.
I'm concerned.
Everyone's really concerned about whether it's going to be done in time. Worse, we're getting really neurotic about whether we followed the steps and prepared it correctly using the Cordero oven and the Ernie Stewart seasoning. So the US men's national team is the turkey.
I would agree with most of that. My only thing would be my concern generally when I'm cooking like turkey or chicken is that I will overcook it, and I don't have any concerns.
That could be happening right now.
Well, I just don't think that the United States has overthought anything when it comes to this turkey, is all I'm saying.
In fact, if we do go hard with the turkey analogy, I'm going to say that what they did is they forgot to defrost it and started cooking it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That checks out.
Okay, Jesse's second Thanksgiving themed question. What's your favourite item on the Thanksgiving dinner table, and what team is most like this favourite item?
All right. You go first this time.
No, you go first. I very specifically want you to go first, and I'll explain why afterwards.
All right. Let me think about this then, because
Does this mean you haven't done an answer?
I have an answer. It's just sort of I'm not content with like which team is most like my favorite one.
Okay. I'll help you afterwards.
I'm gonna go. One of them, my staple ones. It's a source of contention between me and my wife. Would be cranberries from McCann. A lot of people are all about, like you want to go like the organic cranberries that you make yourself. Like, no, I want the rings that show that it came straight out of a can.
The can-shaped cranberry lump.
And I would say, maybe controversially, that the team that's most like cranberries from a can is like maybe Manchester United, because disappointing to a lot of people. People like regular cranberries, but also it's a little bit, it's a little bit packaged. It's a little bit commercial. It's a little bit available for the widespread audience.
Just keep a very recognizable shape, though. It's just not very exciting.
There you go. Exactly. So that would be one. A more like localized one, I would say, is Virginia ham, which is the very
what is
salty.
Virginia ham? Isn't it just ham?
It's salt cured ham, as far as I understand it, which means it's very, very salty, which some people don't like. And if you don't warn your in-laws, apparently my mom did not warn her parents who lived in California when she sent them a Virginia ham, so they cooked it the way you normally would, and it was basically a pile of salt. So then I'm just trying to think, like, a team prepared very well, but if you mess up the preparation, they're not very good. Maybe that's the U.S. national team for me then.
So my answer to this question, what's your favourite item on the Thanksgiving dinner table, and what team is most like that favourite item? I just want you to read it on my page so that I know
Brussels sprouts, I'm assuming?
It's Brussels sprouts. Yep.
I kind of figured.
I like crisp pan-fried Brussels sprouts with salt and butter.
Yeah.
So I really like those Brussels sprouts, right? They are most like Arsenal, because if someone has been preparing them incorrectly for a long time, they can be kind of soft and unappetizing. This is what my dad usually does with Brussels sprouts. And as a result, my mum thinks she does not like Brussels sprouts, right? But it's because my dad prepares them incorrectly. They're soft and unappetizing. But if prepared in a fresh new way, if Arsenal is prepared in a fresh new way, they suddenly have lots of flavor and they're a winner.
Okay. See, that's what I mean. If the United States prepares and comes out very well, and scores a bunch of goals, then they're like delicious Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
And if they're sort of bland and uninteresting and struggle to a 0-0 draw or a 1-0 loss, then they're bad Brussels sprouts.
I genuinely had it's like a standoff with my mum when she visited Richmond, and there's a restaurant here, Avalon. It's changed now, but they used to do Brussels sprouts with like pine nuts and salt and butter, and they were crisp. And I was saying, hey, you got to try these; they're great. And my mum was like, no, I don't like Brussels sprouts, and she refused to try because they'd been prepared incorrectly by my dad for so long.
That's how it works, man.
If anyone's wondering, he just boils them.
Yeah, of course. You didn't really need to clarify that. Yes.
The subtext was there, right?
Yeah. He's English, yes?
Have you seasoned these? Yes, with 100 degrees Celsius water.
It's the Irish in this case, but it's the old Dennis Leary joke of he saw a book entitled Irish Cuisine and he laughed uproariously because what the Irish are famous for is putting everything in a pot and boiling it for 17 and a half hours straight until you can eat it with a straw. Yeah.
You can eat it with a straw. All right, lots more questions to come. But first, today's show is sponsored by Greats. They make things for your feet. They are Brooklyn's first sneaker company, designed in Brooklyn, made in Italy by experts. Greats, Brooklyn's first sneaker company.
You really got to go into like Don Draper style ad sales, because Greats, they go on your feet, is outstanding, my friend. I'm wearing my Greats right now.
The cure for the common shoe.
I'm wearing my Greats now. They're not on my hands; they are on my feet. So I've listened to your advice. I do. I would say if you, like me, maybe you're a Man United fan and hasn't been that great of a season, and maybe you're a U.S. national team fan and you're a little bummed out, you've got the holidays coming. That's the time to, give gifts to others and reflect on how thankful you are. Maybe right now, before all the shopping begins, just buy yourself some Greats. Buy yourself some nice shoes.
So this is like your ad pitch for Greats is treat yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Treat yourself 2018. Yeah.
What are you wearing right now? What are your greats?
I think the Classic Royales, the all whites.
Classic Royales.
I like them a lot.
Did you know I'm wearing mine as well?
I did not.
I didn't know we were doing this, but we've both accidentally worn greats.
I mean, that happens pretty consistently, I think, on the show. Yeah.
So greats, we genuinely love those sneakers. These are my older pair.
Yep.
I'm still go in, still love them.
For listeners, I just looked under the table to see what Daryl was wearing.
Just to check. I want to say they are the most fashionable pair of... My top 2 most fashionable pairs of sneakers are greats.
So Tevas are your number 1?
Teva? Well, I don't know what those are.
What about, so you've got those, and then you've got what, the shoes that are the individual toes? You've got those. Those are your really fashionable ones too? And then just socks with sandals. You actually bought those
I did have those
prepackaged?
back in the day.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did they totally help and you're like,
no.
Your back didn't hurt at all anymore?
It was stupid.
Just kidding. It hurt a lot more.
Greats does not do those.
They do not.
Greats does not do those. But genuinely, like, if I go anywhere where I think there's like a high fashion bar, I'll definitely pull my greats out and put those on.
All right. Okay.
Anywhere where I think like someone's going to be looking at your shoes like and judging you, I'll be judged by my greats. Thank you very much.
I can think of specific places that might be. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and because they're designed in Brooklyn, as we've said before, made in Italy, as we said before. So yeah, you're going to look fashionable 2 times over.
2 times over.
Yeah.
If you want to get 15% off when you treat yourself, go to greats.com and use the discount code TSS. Greats.com is the website. TSS is the discount code for 15% off. The link and the code will be in the show notes in case you didn't write it down just.
All right. Thank you to Greats for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to Daryl for putting that in the show notes in case people didn't write it down just. Next question comes from Ian Brady, who says or asks, it seems that a large number of national youth tournaments are in the United States. Does the data support this? Assuming it does, do you think it hurts the developing United States player? We hear a lot about how hard road games are in CONCACAF, so it seems like playing a lot of home games as the players develop would not prepare them for this.
So my immediate reaction is that yes, a lot of tournaments are played in the United States. The Under-20 Championship right now that the US Under-20s are in has been played at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. But we had a quick text message exchange earlier, and it turns out that it's not always here.
It is not.
It just feels like it is.
Yeah, it does. And I looked it up because I was wondering, like, what are the last few? And then really it turns out, if you go back, I mean, just pulling one, the U17 Women's Championships, put it that way. 2016 was hosted in Grenada, 2013 Jamaica, 2012 Guatemala. The U20 Men's Championships this year were in the United States. Before that, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Mexico, Guatemala. So they're very much spread out.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why maybe it seems like it's more United States, this is a good example, not to like paint with too broad a brush, but the 2018 CONCACAF U17 Championship, here's a quote for you from Wikipedia. The tournament was initially to be hosted by Nicaragua and was planned to take place in April of 2018. 4 days into the tournament, CONCACAF announced the remainder of the championship was canceled immediately due to security concerns caused by civil unrest in Nicaragua. The rest of the tournament was played in the United States at Bradenton, in Bradenton, Florida.
So I guess the obvious reason for that is, one, the US has a lot of available infrastructure.
Exactly.
2, CONCACAF headquarters is in Miami.
Also that.
I'm sure that plays a little role. When your headquarters is in a certain country, that's going to be your fallback option or even your preferred option, maybe more often than other places.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. So it does feel like it is the U.S. as similar to, like, I think Germany is for a lot of international tournaments, the sort of automatic backup of if things go wrong or this doesn't work, Germany is ready to host the World Cup tomorrow.
It should be England. But yeah, you're right. I do hear that.
Though? Should it?
I mean, it's been so long.
Make your fans behave better on the national stage, and then we can talk.
That is fair.
Yeah,
that is fair.
So I think that maybe, but that partially is probably why it seems like there's so many tournaments here. But then I think there's also a lot of non-official competitions that end up being played in the United States, which probably then makes it seem like there's more of them, and that's probably because, again, the United States has the money and infrastructure to host those tournaments. It's
semi-related, not quite related. The fact that the Gold Cup is almost always here, and the fact that the Copa America Centenario was just automatically here with no other bids, also feeds into that idea that everything is here.
Yes.
But it seems from your research that things are moved around much more than we realize.
So it would seem.
Yeah.
But I would say, though, then that does kind of, like, to Ian's second
let's
question.
talk about that,
I think it does.
Which was about, we hear how hard road games are in CONCACAF, so it seems like playing a lot of home games would not prepare the players well for this.
Yes. I think on the one hand, it does prepare them because we talked about this, I think, yesterday, that any sort of major competition, be it a CONCACAF championship or a Youth World Cup, you're getting match experience in a very, like, hotly contested tournament. So that's always going to make you raise your game or kind of expose you to new types of play and new qualities of play. That said, if you look at some of the tournaments that I've just listed when they're played around CONCACAF, there's not quite the level of attendance that there would be for a national team game. So,
not even close. Sometimes it's just hundreds of people, maybe a couple thousand. You're not facing sort of a hostile Honduran crowd.
Yeah.
Chose Honduras just for alliteration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? You're not quite getting the same experience because it's still, ultimately, even though nerds like us pay deep attention to it, it's just a youth tournament, right? You're not attracting the mass population to come and see a youth tournament.
Yeah. And this claim I'm about to make is not one that I've researched. This is more so like my gut feeling is that I think a lot of times, say you have Panama hosting the 2017 men's U17 championships, as they did. They're the host nation. They're going to be put into like group one. Say you've got 4 groups, usually, or even 3 groups. It's going to be the host, Mexico, USA. And I think if we were playing the host nation consistently, then you maybe would see more of a crowd turnout because people don't like the United States in Central America, justifiably so. But I think because we usually don't end up playing the host nation, it doesn't, because usually they end up getting knocked out, or if we do play them, we play them in the final, but that's pretty rare. So I think that's the other element, is that we're not playing them in front of a packed house.
Yes.
So you don't get that level of pressure even in the knockout rounds.
Yeah, because say it's in Honduras, Mexico fans aren't necessarily going to want to.
No.
I'm saying there aren't many Mexico fans if you're playing in Honduras.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah. The other example, the other thing that comes to my mind, and again, this is a gut reaction, but I'll bet it's easier to get players released to play in these youth tournaments, say by an MLS team, if the tournament's in Bradenton, Florida.
Absolutely.
Because it's just much easier to get to. It's a shorter flight, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's much easier to get players released for that reason, I would bet, rather than going down to Panama.
Yeah. And then
like Mackenzie with the Philadelphia Union, right? They sort of let him go, didn't let him go with the playoff. Remember that?
Yeah.
So it would have been tougher.
I also wonder with some of these, especially like U17 stuff, where the kids, like American kids, technically aren't like adults yet, right? Because you're not 18. So I also wonder if there are different protocols in place than there would be for more senior teams, just because you've got a bunch of not yet 18-year-olds.
I imagine they're more protected.
That's what I'm saying. So then I wonder if also like even some of these sort of trials and tribulations of going on the road in CONCACAF are sort of removed because of the younger age groups.
More like going on a school trip.
Yeah, exactly.
I would imagine.
I'm assuming you're staying in a heavily secured compound as opposed to just traveling around.
Well, at least your time is more regulated, you know what I'm saying, than it is when you're an adult. Yeah. Okay, ready for the next question?
Always, my friend, always.
Next question comes from Zach Lippert. Zach wants to know, what should US men's national team fans' realistic expectations be while the team rebuilds? Beating World Cup favourites like Brazil and England, thank you for including England in that, was never a realistic outcome, and losing pretty doesn't really do anyone any good. So I'm going to take this to be Zach asking, what should our expectations be going forward, almost no matter who the coach is? Wink, wink, it's probably Greg Berhalter.
Yeah, that checks out to me.
So what are your expectations going forward? What should US fans' expectations be?
What are mine, or what should US fans be? Because I think
hopefully you have the correct expectations, so I want to fold them in together.
I'll answer this from my personal approach, which is that I am sort of actively trying to not care about results. And I really mean that for anything up to World Cup qualification. That I don't necessarily care if we win the Gold Cup. I don't care if we win a friendly. I'm much more focused.
What do you care about? Are you eating at Arby's now?
Yeah, exactly. I've given up. Nihilist Arby's is the way for me. No, I think basically one thing that I found, for me personally, is that I tend to gauge results based on the result. And so it's like, oh, USA, they didn't play that well, but they got the result against Honduras, whatever, that's fine. And I don't look at it as like, okay, but they didn't actually play the way they wanted to play, and this system didn't work. And then the next game, when they've abandoned it completely, if they win, I'm still sort of like, oh, well, they won again. And what I would like for me to do going forward is to focus on like, okay, they're playing a coherent system from start to finish. The next game, okay, he moved this around. He tinkered a little bit. And I want to see the evolution of the team such that when World Cup qualification comes around, there's this team that can play a couple different systems, all the players are on board, and you can kind of not necessarily roll through opposition, but everybody knows exactly what's expected of them, which is not a thing I think we've seen from the US in years past.
So you want to focus on the building part of the rebuilding, as in seeing something built.
Yes.
I agree with you to a point, especially after watching for the past year nothing be built, right? Kids played, but they didn't build towards something. They just kept getting caps, right? So I guess they can cover their heads a lot. But the point at which I start disagreeing with you is the Gold Cup and the CONCACAF Nations League. Because I think it's long enough that the new coach can have the first 6 months of the year. He can have the January camp. There's a friendly scheduled against Costa Rica in February. There's probably a couple of friendlies in March, I believe. There'll be some pre-Gold Cup warm-up games. I would argue that that's long enough to have established enough of a style that we can be very competitive and have not pretensions, have ambitions to win the Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the first good competitive test of the new US national team. And I also think after finishing 5th in the Hex, that winning a CONCACAF tournament is a thing that we should be aiming to do to get ourselves back in the CONCACAF game. Not necessarily be better than Mexico, but at least try and be in the top 2.
Yeah,
or 3.
That makes sense. I mean, I can see where, like, if you want to reestablish that, like, yes, we can function within CONCACAF and it was just a fluke, then winning the Gold Cup definitely sends you in that direction.
And then for me, CONCACAF Nations League is also important in the same way, because we could get drawn in a group with Honduras and there'll be points on the line and we go away to Honduras.
See, I actually think the Nations League is more important than the Gold Cup, in my opinion.
Why
if
so?
anything, I would go like qualifying for the World Cup and then Nations League.
Because it's the most shocking thing I've heard today.
I mean, because I know, right? It's not even because like the Nations League is suddenly very important to me. It's just that I think it gives you more realistic preparation for you're going to go away to CONCACAF opponents, and you've got to like kind of learn how to grind on the road to get results that set you up in a table to win or advance or what have you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Gold Cup's just in the US.
Yeah, and it's in the US, and the reality is like you could probably not tune into the group stage of the Gold Cup and really be there for the knockout rounds, and that's when the United States is going to meet tougher opposition.
It depends who we get.
It does it, though.
It does depend who we get. Yes.
All right. But so I'm with you that I think, like, that maybe I want to see those results. And I would like to see, with that in mind, going away to a CONCACAF opponent, I like to think that there would be a strong enough core and chemistry by that point that it's not just that sort of the practical approach of win at home, draw away, you're fine. I would like to see the United States play similar styles or kind of go at opponents at times. So yeah, actually this is interesting. Going back to how we covered the World Cup qualification process for 2018, I remember us both sitting here, I'm going to say just me, sitting here and saying a point away to X team is good. We should be happy with it. And I think I just bought into the idea that win at home, draw away, everything will be fine. It would be an interesting raising of the bar to say, hey, we're going to start going to Costa Rica, to Honduras. Mexico's tougher, obviously, but going away in CONCACAF and trying to win games, having realistic expectations to win games. I mean, it's a higher bar than we're at right now, given what happened in Trinidad, but I think it's a bar we should try and set and try and reach. Yeah, try and clear. Are we high jumping here? I guess high jumping. Yeah, sure. Why not? High jump works. And I think what we're both getting at is the idea of like not that we should be winning those games on the road, but more so that we want to see the U.S. try to win those games on the road. That like I want to see them go out and push themselves and try to do different things and try to play a cohesive game plan. And try through a cohesive game plan, not try through everyone try harder. Exactly. I guess a question that really links up with that is coming later in this show. It is. One final thing on this question I want to get into is, because Zach specifically talked about playing Brazil and England. Yeah. Like, okay, say we have they're not scheduled yet as far as I know. Say we have friendly scheduled in March against really good teams, like top tier teams. The same thing holds true, right? We expect to see some building, but we don't care what the result is. Yes. Yeah? Yeah, because I think this all goes back to me of an idea of like I want us to be informed in our hopefulness, both as fans and as pundits, versus just having hope that we're going to get it right. And I would like to see like the United States going up against Brazil, say it's 9 months into, we think, Greg Berhalter's tenure, and they've won the Gold Cup and things are looking kind of solid, and suddenly we've got this friendly against Brazil. I want to be able to say, like, okay, well, we played a 4-3-3 against this team, but they have been using a back three against stronger teams, so we'll probably see a back three. Like, I want to be able to kind of put that together, and then when there's like, oh, he's put this person here, I can see why that's a big deal, and we can focus on that as, is that key to trying to unlock Brazil? If we lose, we lose. But to me, it's about being able to, like, have an idea of what we're doing so I can then be excited about that game and like maybe we'll win it if we do this versus like I just hope we win it. I also think expectations can be about the quality of the players, right? So I think justifiably we were all excited about a team that has Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Josh Sargent, all these new players, and that maybe the Portugal results when we drew in November against really their B team
raised expectations like, oh, maybe these kids are just like 50% better than the last generation of US players. Maybe we can go toe-to-toe with Brazil without a real tactical plan, and something will happen.
Yeah, a lot of maybes in there.
Yeah, and what happened is we got beat, right? So obviously this next generation of players isn't suddenly good enough that we can just fly by the seat of our pants and compete against big teams. But what I'd like to see, this is a realistic expectation, I think, that this new generation of players, and the Alex Mendez is coming behind, I hope there's more than one, with a tactical plan, with a system that everybody's drilled in and everybody knows their instructions, that will be good enough to at least not be embarrassed against bigger teams. And I would agree with your very first point, which is maybe the result doesn't matter. But if I see them compete, just compete, even if you lose 2-1 against a big team like that, that will be progress. That will be a realistic expectation.
Agree wholeheartedly. Yeah? I have one sort of follow-up question for you, Daryl. And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. So, if you need me to stall for time, I can.
I thrive in the spot.
We've had a few people...
Unless it's a penalty kick.
Yeah, same here. We've had a few people tweet us like about the yesterday's show, for example, saying I'm not sorry, I'm not going to listen to that show. I need a break from the U.S. national team. I'm kind of done with them for a while.
We had one specific person tweet that.
We had a few more that were very angry and kind of done with U.S. soccer. My question is, if people need a break, if people have just decided I'm really frustrated with the way things have gone, it's been another frustrating year, what would you advise them in terms of what is a good return date? Because I feel like maybe there's an idea that the January camp, we said this yesterday, isn't always that exciting. Would you say maybe looking towards those March friendlies? Is it the Gold Cup and the lead up to the Gold Cup?
Okay, I'm going to think this through. It's tough because we'll definitely be all in on, assuming there's a new coach, right? We'll be all in on the January camp.
It's a big assuming.
Because we'll want to see who Lopetegui, I'm joking, calls up. But it's not going to be the strongest possible team, right? Because it's the January camp and you can only select from domestic players or players that are so unloved by their club team that they let them go for January. So that's a good... if it's a restaurant, that would be your soft launch. You know what I'm saying? Your soft opening.
Yeah.
But if you want to get excited about the US team again, that's probably not the game to watch.
No, actually,
right?
I think you've...
So March friendlies is the answer.
I think you've helped me answer, which is if you don't want to put the energy in, or if you're just not ready to potentially get burned again, just listen to us. And then when we're okay, it's time. Be excited now. We can, I don't know, we'll raise a flag or something.
Yeah. But I think it's March. I really think that the soft opening is February, and maybe that's not for everybody because it's not the full strength team. I'm going to assume that Greg Berhalter, or whoever the US coach is, will pick a full strength roster for whatever the friendly games are that we play in March, because it will be his first chance to do so. So that's the time to actually watch Berhalter's first big game as US men's national team coach.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's either Greg Berhalter...
making a lot of assumptions. Could be Tab Ramos. Could be
Greg Gerhalter. That's Greg Berhalter with a mustache.
Could turn out that Ernie Stewart was interviewing himself all this time.
You never know. That would be disconcerting when you see the footage of the interview.
Yeah.
Just him talking to a mirror a la Stuart Smalley. Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Or maybe if you're very resistant, maybe wait till the Gold Cup when things get competitive again.
But
sometime in 2019 at the very least.
Sometime in 2019. All right. Well, we've got a few more questions to get to and some scouting, but first we've got a sponsor we definitely want to talk about.
Yes.
It's our friends at Roughneck Scarves.
Oh, it's one of those independent sponsors we mentioned at the top of the show. So Roughneck Scarves are the official providers of scarves for US Soccer, Major League Soccer, USL and the NCAA. And they also have all kinds of national team scarves. I could get an England scarf there if I wanted to.
You could indeed.
Best of all, you can design a custom scarf through Roughneck Scarves, just like we did for the World Cup Comedy Tour. We had the Total Soccer Show Cooligans scarves for the World Cup Comedy Tour. I asked on Twitter, I didn't get your approval with this, I just took a gamble. If you were to design a custom Roughneck scarf showing soccer things you're thankful for, what would it look like? So it's a Thanksgiving-themed scarf, soccer-themed scarf. We have selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 answers, but there were many, many more good ones.
There were indeed. First one up is Joshua Curatolo. One side would have the U.S. women's national team. The other side would be Greg Berhalter with blueprints in hand with a contractor helmet. I feel like you could have gone crew helmet there, but that's fine.
Just did he really doubled?
Yeah.
Well, that would suggest he was maybe still with the crew, so that would be confusing.
Could do double duty.
Please
don't do double duty.
I like Joshua's optimism that he is thankful for Greg Berhalter as national team coach, even though it's not announced yet. Adam says his scarf would show the current Bundesliga table with Borussia Dortmund sitting on top. It's because it's been a rough couple of years for Borussia Dortmund fans, right? So I can imagine thankful to be top of the table and having to peer all the way down.
It's going to have to be a lateral table, I think. That's the best
Why
way.
is that?
Otherwise, it's going to be very stretched out with very thin team names each way.
Yes,
I think
you're right.
Might have to hold that one vertically. Leslie Gideon, side 1, USMNT with fireworks and bald eagles on either side. Side 2, a list of all the cups, trophies, and accolades they've earned in their undefeated 2018.
Matthew Brose says side 1 would say saved the crew. Side 2 would have supporters, city, and players.
All right.
So Columbus being the city, I assume. So Matthew echoing my earlier crew thankfulness.
It's a lot of crew and women's national team are keeping people optimistic. Final one, Oscar Villalobos. One side, we have a stadium. On the other, DC is relevant again. All right, I like that one.
Similar to yours earlier with Wayne Rooney and DC United suddenly being a team to be excited about.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one. Also, 2 people, Dalia Castillo and Grayson Smith, would have the Cooligans on their Thanksgiving scarf.
Did you see those tweets?
I did.
Yeah.
It was very sweet.
We won't be reading those.
We can have Christian Polanco on there. That's fine.
I would say the World Cup Comedy Tour scarf actually does have the TSS logo and the Cooligans logo on it.
Yeah.
So I think some are still available because we didn't sell all of them on the tour, right? So I would say tweet at Michael Magid, Michael Michael Magid, and ask him if he has any still available. I'm sure he will sell them to you. So tweet at Michael Magid if you want a scarf with the Total Soccer Show and the Cooligans on it.
But if you wanted to get one for the U.S., any team within U.S. soccer, basically, Major League Soccer,
and beyond,
USL, college, anything like that, you could do so, and you could do so at a discount because you can get 20% off your order by using Total Soccer Show at checkout.
And that's roughneckscarves.com. And like Tyler said, Total Soccer Show, all one word, at checkout for 20% off. Thank you, Roughneck Scarves, for sponsoring today's show.
Roughneck Scarves is their evil twin.
Yeah, don't buy from them.
Next question. You want to read it? You want me to read it?
It is from Cody Santangelo. I guess I'm reading it now.
Right.
Cody Santangelo says, I'm not sure if I was young and naive or blinded by a few results, but what was so poor about the Klinsmann era? So many analysts and podcasters I've heard have had only negative feelings about him. What are some things about his coaching tenure that he did poorly and you would have done differently? Also, were there any things he did well that you wish the next US men's national team coach would do? This is a good question because it's been about 2 years since we fired Klinsmann, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready to revisit.
And you're insistent on answering this nicely, right?
I mean, the second part of the question, what are things he did well? I think that's very on point for Thanksgiving, right? So what are the Klinsmann things that we are thankful for? But we can get to those after we get through the not so thankful stuff.
Sure. I mean, I think it was controversial because of the way it came about and kind of his overall tenure. But I do think pushing players to Europe was probably the right call. I think he would be.
You're doing the thankful stuff first?
Yeah, I'm saying, I think he is right to say, our best players should be trying to play in the Champions League. They should be playing in the top leagues. I think the conditions in which he said that probably made that statement more controversial than it would have been. I also do think, again, it's a good and bad thing, but a lot of the German Americans, Fabian Johnson, Julian Green, John Brooks, they kind of came through because of conversations they had with Jurgen Klinsmann. Not to say that other people hadn't contacted them, but I think he is a big selling point for German Americans.
Okay. I would echo the part about, I guess we're doing the thankful stuff first, right? He did raise the bar in terms of expectations and profile, right? By demanding that, say, Jordan Morris go to Europe. Jordan Morris didn't go because of his dog.
Yeah.
But he did raise the bar by making us believe that things were possible for the US national team. And I actually think it worked for a little while, right? Everybody upped their game, at least until the end of the 2014 World Cup. And everybody just kind of believed in Klinsmann's, Klinsmann telling them, raise your game, be better, we can do it, let's go. It was like a very rah-rah thing.
I think you're forgetting the Brian Strauss article. That was sort of everybody hates each other. That was 2013.
That was 2013.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
So, that's the thing is, I think you can take stuff that Klinsmann did in a vacuum and it's positive. But if you remove and put it within the larger context of everything he did, it becomes negative a lot of the time. So, for example, he had I forget what it was called. It was calculated disruption or something like that. The idea that you want to break up rhythms to see how players respond and push them to adapt or evolve.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, and I think that there are ways that can work in terms of approaches to training or how do you deal with, hey, actually, no, this person's going to play here. I think that can work. But when seen within a larger context of everything is disruption all the time, then I think it doesn't work as well. Yeah, exactly.
I think the other thing I quite liked in hindsight is that he didn't buy into the US soccer equals Major League Soccer all on the same page because of Soccer United marketing. Like, he said some very negative things about MLS, which is, I mean, he said it very rudely, and I didn't appreciate it in that sense. But at least he didn't just all go hand in hand and sort of close the doors and US soccer protects MLS and MLS protects US soccer. He at least was a voice that spoke out against that sort of synergy that no one asked for.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, because I think you
I'm
look
glad we've done the positives first.
You mentioned Jordan Morris, Miguel Ibarra as well, getting a call-up when he's playing in the NASL. Like, I think that was all designed by Jurgen Klinsmann to show no one is safe. You can't just be guaranteed that because you're in MLS or Europe, you're definitely getting called in. He looked around and tried different things, so I think you can definitely give him some credit there.
Okay. But
I've got a longer list on the negatives.
Then
to
the bad stuff. Yeah. I want to start by saying people have negative feelings now because it ended so badly.
Yeah.
Right? It ended with a 4-0, I believe, loss to Costa Rica, preceded by a... basically, we let the Columbus versus Mexico record go when we lost to Mexico in Columbus. And worst of all, that was the game where he didn't tell the players until basically, not long before kickoff, hey, we're playing 3 at the back. Let's go do it, right? Yeah. Which feeds into the lack of tactical preparation. This is what I was trying to get at earlier is the... his rah-rahness and his believe in yourself and like raise your game and do your best speeches and style, I think did help raise the level a little bit. But once players see through that and start to see that there's no detailed tactical plan, then you see through him and you realize there's no plan, and suddenly you're sort of flying through the air right now. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what happened. And I'd even say it goes back a little farther to losing in the Gold Cup semi-final to Jamaica in 2015, and then losing to Mexico in the CONCACAF Cup, that weird playoff where we again looked like we had no plan and could have lost by a lot more.
I mean, I think a lot of what you're describing is like the new broom sweeps clean mentality, which is he came in and he had this kind of like it's Jurgen Klinsmann, everybody knows him, and he's got this very like electrifying, let's go get it personality.
It's the new manager bounce.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think to your point, like once you kind of see through that enthusiasm, like one of the quotes that stood out from, I think it was the Strauss article, it may have been the Ringer article more recently, was this idea that like he's not like this SoCal surfer dude who's laid back. Like he's a German. Like he's very efficient. He wants things done a certain way. Yeah. He's very rigorous in his approach. And I think if you don't respond well to that, that becomes problematic. But I think
that is a problem. Is a lot of players just found themselves on the outside because they didn't fully agree with him. You kind of scapegoated a couple of players, right?
Yeah.
Like Landon Donovan, famously 2014 World Cup. That's a thing that he's not popular for doing, not taking Donovan to the World Cup. And Fabian Johnson in that CONCACAF Cup where Johnson felt an injury coming, asked to be subbed, and Klinsmann sort of never forgave him for it.
No, and the thing with Johnson, like, yes, I take your point. I would say Johnson, like, at least that was an on the field thing because a lot of the decisions he made, specifically Landon Donovan not being at the World Cup and dropping Carlos Bocanegra from his role, both of those seem to be more so about like, I want to stamp my authority on this team. I want it to be clear that I am in charge. And then this is where I go back to like the calculated disruption or whatever it's called, is that if you're doing that in bits and pieces, it's fine. But so much of the criticism from former players and anonymous players and on the record players was that everything he kind of did was on a whim, that he would wake up, come into training and say, hey, we're going to focus on yoga. And he would have this whole yoga plan. And then 2 weeks later, there would be no mention of yoga ever again. And it seems like that was kind of the case with some of his player selection decisions was, you know what, Carlos Bocanegra doesn't work anymore. I'm going to start an experimental back four against Honduras. That didn't work. Oh, well. And like it just seems like, and by all accounts, he didn't give Bocanegra any warning that he was going to be dropped. Same for Donovan. Yeah. And then there wasn't really a conversation after, other than I think he went up to Carlos Bocanegra in front of the team and said like, hey, I need you to be a cheerleader today or something along those lines. Yeah. It was like he just told his captain that he wasn't playing anymore.
So it's like there's a harshness that I guess Klinsmann would explain as, soccer's dog eat dog and you got to be tough. But sort of not recognizing the human element, which I think is a big part of modern soccer, is to get the best out of people. Sometimes you've got to adapt your approach to that person. Some people need an arm around the shoulder. Some people need a kick in the ass. And you've got to know which one is which.
Yeah, but you've also then got to be able to turn that kick upon yourself, basically, which is that if you're saying everybody's got to be accountable. You got to work that much harder. It's on the field performance that matters. And if you can't perform, we'll find somebody who can. And like you're holding all these people to this high like accountability level. But then when things go wrong and your response is always, oh, well, we didn't raise our game. Oh, players weren't up for it. We didn't get the usual passion we get. Like that's when I'm not saying he was, but that's when you go from like a leader who can balance themselves and learn from experiences to like a dictator who everybody else needs to be better, but I'm always right. Yeah. That's where it felt a little bit more like he couldn't handle criticism.
I wasn't a fan of his press conferences and his communication strategy either. Like he never really told us what the plan was with the team.
Nope.
In terms of tactics especially, I think maybe because there wasn't much there. But also, we would just get a lot of cliches, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot of non-answers that grammatically made sense. Like why did
Your others are above him?
Why isn't Benny Feiharber being selected? Others are ahead of him,
Yeah.
right? I would have preferred, like, Gareth Southgate's the good counterexample I always use. Chris Smalling's no longer being selected because I want defenders who can play out of the back.
Yeah.
At least Southgate is telling Smalling and telling the press and telling the fans and telling the whole England team, this is the plan, this guy doesn't fit, this is why, right?
Yeah.
There was never a clear reason given for things. It was just, we have to fight harder, we have to like believe in ourselves, we have to do, it just didn't ever, there were no specifics essentially.
No, I mean, and
then if you don't have specifics, you can't be held to them.
You cannot. And I think like even in like the 2013 era, there was a player who said, I think it's like 70-30 of the games we have a plan versus don't. So 30% of the time they haven't practiced the formation they're playing and they don't have a plan. I think that increased over time.
Yeah.
And so again, going back to that Southgate point, if you have everybody buying in and also understanding what's being asked of them, it makes it that much easier to buy in. Where if I say to Daryl, hey, you're going to be my starting center back from now on, Daryl can get ready for that and can learn and then can adjust. And then each game he knows, okay, I'm going to be playing center back. Okay, this game I didn't quite do as well with like a left-footed attacker, so that's something I want to work on. You can grow. But if I say, Daryl, you're going to be my center back from now on, you prepare for that, and then the next game I'm like, actually, you're going to be my left back. Actually, you're going to be my left wing back. Like you can just never really sort of get comfortable.
Yeah,
and if you're never comfortable, then you also never feel like totally situated within the team.
And there's also, if you think of, I don't want to go too deep into this, but
I'm fine.
The Bradley Jones thing of them basically being the Gerrard Lampard, and we could never figure out how to fit them together. It probably could have worked with a different coach.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Someone else maybe with more instruction rather than just like, oh, those players are smart, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Some more instruction I think would have maybe solved that problem.
Yes.
Right? Maybe someone else could have. How about this though? The final part of Zach's question was, of Cody's question. What did he do that we want the next US coach to do that maybe the most recent coach hasn't? Is there anything that Klinsmann did that we want to see going forward?
Well, I think, like, to answer that, I want to go back to, like, Klinsmann's original hiring for a second, because by all accounts, there was this idea that he's steeped in the American culture and tradition. He's lived here. He knows how to deal with U.S. soccer, but he has this international pedigree. And I actually think, in some ways, that hurt him, because I think so much of his coaching, my feeling is that he just kind of came from a background of, I was one of the best strikers in the world. I knew how to do all this stuff. So these guys probably know how to do all that stuff too. So then it's about, I wish I'd had better nutrition. I wish I'd had more fitness. I would have been that much better of a player.
So solving problems from his past rather than problems that existed in that time.
But I think they were still problems. It's just that then he focused on fitness and nutrition and additional exercise and blood testing and how do we make sure we're at physical peak. That's all great. It's just that you then also have to pair that with, what are we doing tactically? And that's where Philip Lahm's quote about, like, it was all fitness, we had to figure it out beforehand, or like we had to figure it out as a team. And I think you can approach those outside of soccer elements the same way he did, and that can work really well.
So you would like the next coach to maybe continue that idea?
Yeah, because
one thing I remember is he was very upset that some players turned up for a January camp slightly out of shape.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember the disagreement being that those players thought, because especially MLS players, right? They've been off for a couple of months. January camp is them starting their season even earlier than the guys whose first game would be in March. So they can turn up a little out of shape and use January camp as the sort of fitness camp to get ready. Klinsmann said, no, you turn up for January camp 100% ready to go on day one so we can work on stuff versus use it as a fitness camp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's harsh, but I think I quite like that as an example of raising the standard. I wouldn't be opposed to a new coach doing that.
No, when it comes to, like, the fitness standard?
I think so, yeah.
But this is
I don't want to go all in on that, but I think it's a good example of just raising the bar
Yeah.
that maybe we should just keep it there.
I'm fine with that, but I also, we keep going back to Southgate for whatever reason, but like...
Well, he's a good example right now, right?
He's a good example, but I think he's also sort of, in a way, representative of what Klinsmann wanted to be. So there's the famous photo of Harry Maguire with his, like, unicorn inflatable whatever thing in a pool, and I can't say I know, like, the entire background of that, but my bet is going to be they were doing a pool workout or they were doing some sort of, like, exercise stretching in the pool, and then it ended with them being goofy with a unicorn. And I feel like that's the blending that we want, is that Klinsmann, it can be relaxed and we can try different stuff and we can be a little bit goofy and we can be our own individual selves after we've done a bunch of fitness. Like, I think you can blend those two things and have it be more... Like, those two things combine into a fit team that has a lot of chemistry and can be a little bit goofy with each other, that breaks down some of the divisions that existed.
All right. To answer my own question, I would say maybe I would keep some of the combativeness with Major League Soccer, where US Soccer head coach and MLS, say, and Don Garber, don't have to be in lockstep.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if this is what you're getting at. I'm going to extend it further to say, I don't love that sometimes we wonder why a player is on a roster. And sometimes we feel like maybe it's because, they needed to get that player a little bit more money and justifying it with a national team call-up. Or that player needs a new move, so we want to get them in there. I like the idea of a coach who doesn't necessarily care about that stuff and is more about, no, I want to win and I want to get my best team out there to make that happen.
All right. So I think we answered Cody's question.
I hope so.
One question to go. It's from Steve Renard. Steve Renard wants to know, how do you teach children under the age of 10 how to kick the ball properly?
Oh, boy.
So this is not US themed, but I thought maybe a kid's question was somewhat Thanksgiving themed, right? This is the question for the kids table. Mm-hmm. How do you teach children under the age of 10 how to kick the ball properly?
Yeah, at the kids' table.
Steve says, no kicking during dinner. I am not the coach of my daughter's team, but whenever I am playing with her and or her friends, I watch them all doing this stuff. Straight-legged weirdness that is neither aesthetically pleasing...
Stiff straight-legged weirdness.
Stiff, straight-legged weirdness that is neither aesthetically pleasing nor effective. Mm-hmm. Or they all kick it with their toes and we end up chasing the ball for more than half the time. Is this just what kids do? Or is there some key to communicating how to properly kick the ball?
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically asking you because you coach kids, right? That's
I do.
One of the things you do is coach young'uns.
Yes, and I would say, I'm not trying to criticize Steve or any of the coaches, but I would say this. I think a lot of times a coach who maybe has a bunch of teams or a bunch of players to deal with maybe is sort of like, yeah, that's good enough. And I think what it comes down to is that kids are sponges. Kids want to learn and will learn quickly. And so I think if you just settle for that's good enough, then that's what they're going to learn. But if you're pushing them to learn the actual right technique, they're going to want to learn it because it will make them better. So I think that's one part of it too, is to make sure that they are getting the coaching and the instruction that's necessary as to how to kick a ball or how to pass a ball.
Are you sort of suggesting maybe the coach, not Steve, but the coach isn't doing that great of a job?
I mean, it's possible because it might just be a volunteer who's out there once a week trying to have kids score goals. That's fine, but you still want to make sure that they're learning that technique. And I think that comes from modeling the basics of what good shooting is. And you can.
Oh, we're doing shooting. Okay.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go that way, like striking a ball, for example.
Okay.
You want to model the basics and you want to put it on their level. So if I'm coaching a bunch of 6-year-olds who all have Velcro straps instead of laces, then I'll adjust it to you always want to hit it with your laces or your straps, or if you're wearing Crocs, because a 5-year-old will sometimes be wearing Crocs, you want to hit it with the bubbles or the holes or whatever. You want to put it on a level they can understand.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it, is you teach those very basics. And with that, I think you teach it first with a static ball so they learn how to actually kick a ball. So if I'm coaching kids, I'll put them in front of the goal, maybe 8 yards out, and I'll have them all at the same time run up and kick the ball. And we work on, use your laces. Okay, I want you to use your laces a little bit better this time, or whatever.
Your straps or your bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. Or your straps, your bubbles. And then the next time it will be, okay, now you have to roll the ball out and then kick it while it's moving, or dribble through cones and kick it. Because I imagine that part of the toe and the straight leg is when you're kicking a static ball, it's easy to hit it with your laces. As soon as you've got somebody running up to try to take the ball away from you and there's a goalie in front of you and you're dribbling, it becomes harder and maybe you just default to what comes natural.
Old habits, right? I've seen that happen with adults as well.
Yes. I did ask a friend of mine, a former Richmond Kickers player who is also a coach, and one of his points was that it's probably a mechanics issue, the straight-legged thing, because basically...
I could have told you that.
Yeah, but if your toe down and ankle is locked, which is a key part of that, you want to teach them to lock that ankle, then it takes care of the stiff-legged weirdness because you have to bend your knee to get your laces over the ball, essentially.
Oh, so then you're not specifically teaching them to bend the knee?
Yeah.
Sounds like Game of Thrones.
It does.
But if you teach the correct foot shape, it almost forces to bend the knee.
Exactly.
Which is kind of like Game of Thrones.
And also if you're teaching them to hit it with their laces with their ankle locked, it's very difficult to then hit it with your toe.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. The other one he pointed out with his explanation is he says, if you're hitting a baseball, do you want to hit it with a metal baseball bat or a pool noodle? And then he basically compares a not locked ankle to the pool noodle. So you want like as strong of a surface as possible to hit that ball. That tends to help with the shooting.
Okay, how about slightly...
And land on your shooting foot. Also.
Related but different question. Steve says he's not the coach, right? Mm-hmm. I gather from the wording of the question, he's saying whenever I'm playing with her and or her friends, this is separate from an actual coaching session, right? We're going to assume... We've met Steve, right? We met Steve at the DC United game. He did not seem like the sort of person who would barge into coach's session and say, hey, let's do this. So we're going to assume he's doing this separate from any coaching session. Is that okay for parents to give supplementary coaching away from what the main coach is doing?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay, I just want to check.
Yeah, it's not like as soon as you leave the soccer field, you may no longer speak to your child about soccer. That is only the domain of the coach. You shouldn't do it during a practice.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously,
you
shouldn't be the parent who, when the coach has just told the kid to go play wide midfield and stay on the touchline, you shouldn't be the parent who then says, no, stay central. Like, then you're kind of fundamentally changing what's being asked.
Okay. So that's good advice.
Yeah, I think, and then just make it fun. That is a big thing, is like, what I have learned in coaching, I think I've told you this before, that like I had this expectation that like kids were adults, I guess, that like if I had a 4-year-old shove another 4-year-old and I asked like, well, why did you push him or her? And they're like, I don't know. Like, no, that's not good enough. Come on. And like, no 4-year-old is ever going to be like, well, I was feeling kind of threatened and intimidated by the day. Like, that's not happening. And so, same way, if they get frustrated when they can't score a goal by hitting it with their toe, being like, well, that's why you shouldn't hit it with your toe, doesn't work. But incentivizing it as like, okay, you get 10 points if you score a goal with your laces, but you only get 1 if you score with your toes, then suddenly they're losing every game 50-1, and maybe they kind of changed a little bit. So making it a bit more creative. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Kids just want to play, man. If you make the game fun, then they'll want to play the game.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
And if you make the game yelling and asking psychologically like intrusive questions, that probably doesn't help either.
Well, I hope that answers Steve's question. Thank you to everybody for the questions today. If you've got questions for us, please ask them at totalsoccershow.com/questions. If you are a financial supporter of the show at $10 a month or more, we guarantee to answer at least 1 question per month. There's a little chat box so you can say that you're a $10 supporter when you ask the question. Just a word to a couple of people out there. I do check. A couple of people have tried to sneak it through.
Oh, yeah?
Pretending they're $10 supporters when they're not.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Not naming any names, but they know who they are.
We had that a couple times with scouts, too. People just send in scouting reports. And I was like, is this person in there?
Yeah, we have spreadsheets.
Many spreadsheets. Don't be down our spreadsheets.
On one of those spreadsheets is the entire Total Soccer Show scouting network.
It's lengthy.
It takes a while to load
It does.
At this point. And we have lots of reports from the scouting network coming in today.
That
Is
we
that
do.
Right? Yeah. Before we get to them, I want to offer a tip that I've been offering to all new scouts. Search your player's name on Twitter. That's where the biggest sort of river of news, the big stream of news is happening right now, for soccer especially, is on Twitter. So if you search your player's name on Twitter and then click latest, you get those tabs after you search. You'll see all kinds of information about your player that you won't find just, say, Googling it or using other news sources. Just want to make sure to share that with everybody.
I've just been reading the local newspaper. It hasn't worked so much in terms of global soccer results. The Richmond Times-Dispatch.
It's mostly Associated Press from The Wire.
Yeah. There's another name for the Richmond Times-Dispatch that we won't go into, but it accurately summarizes my feelings. Anyway.
The people that work there, I like them.
Sure. We got some U20 reports to get to first, starting with Wes Kaufman scouting Ayo Akinyola, 18-year-old American forward for Toronto FC.
Can I raise my hand here? Is it Akinyola or is it Akinola?
I don't know.
Are you pretending there's a tilde on there?
Yeah, I think maybe it's Akinola.
I wonder if you'd heard different.
Nah,
no?
I don't know.
Right.
It's the way I choose to go, my friend.
I'm going to call him Akingola.
Ayo had a hand in the US U20s officially qualifying for the 2019 U20 World Cup next summer in Poland. He closed out the scoring in the USA's 4-0 win over Costa Rica with a beautiful looping flicked header before getting the lone goal in their 1-0 win over Honduras.
Good finish.
It was. Honduras needed to lose that game by fewer than 4 goals to qualify for the World Cup, so they set up with 10 outfield players behind the ball. Ayo still found the back of the net for his 7th of the game. Or of the tournament, excuse me. Of the game would be more notable.
Ayo Akingola. Russell Varner is scouting Alex Mendez, the much discussed on the Total Show, Alex Mendez. 18-year-old American midfielder for SC Freiburg. Russell Varner says, this just in, Alex Mendez is real, all caps, good. He started on the back right side of the US's 4-3-2-1 formation against Costa Rica. Okay, I can agree with that. And it's a 4-3-3, right? And assisted on Akinola's goal in the 76th minute. More importantly, he scored an absolute golazo in the 15th minute to open the scoring for the US. In the 1-0 win over Honduras, he had the MLS assist for the only goal. the only MLS assist he'll ever get, I think, because he's gone straight to Germany, and helped set up a match against Mexico in the final. That game is tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, Univision Deportes and CONCACAF.com.
But lest you forget, we have officially decided that any assist for the assist is considered an MLS assist, regardless of where they're playing.
Oh, I know.
So he'll get MLS assist wherever he wants.
I saw the opportunity to crack a joke about him skipping MLS.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Brian Hoysa scouting Sergino Dest, 18-year-old American right back for Ajax. Dest started at right back in both of the recent US U20 games and contributed to the shutouts while looking like a threat moving up the field. At club level, he has bounced between right back and right wing this season. Dest told Brian Sciaretta in an interview over the weekend, quote, "I think right back is just my best position for the future. I also like to play wing. Ajax told me they saw I was really technical. They said they wanted to try me at winger and then I could always go back to right back. They wanted to try it out to improve my speed of play," end quote.
So I don't watch him regularly enough to really know, but my gut feeling is that he has looked more dangerous going forward since he had that little spell as a winger.
Yep.
Right, so playing right back, he looks more dangerous going forward since he had that spell as a winger. It's almost as if Ajax know what they're doing.
It's almost as if.
Michael Curry is scouting Haji Wright, the 20-year-old American forward, for Schalke 2. Michael says, Haji started and scored a goal for the Schalke 2 the weekend before the international break. That makes 5 on the season, which is good given that he's been dealing with an injury and spotty playing time. I've got an addendum to this. He was recently seen training with the first team during the international break. Everybody else was called up, so he got to go and train with the first team.
All right. Well done, Haji Wright. Well done, Ashley Sanchez, scouted by Ira Jersey. Ashley Sanchez is the 19-year-old American attacker for UCLA.
Are UCLA still in the tournament?
Ashley continues to be in form and has been on the score sheet 8 times in the first 3 games of the NCAA tournament with 2 goals and 6 assists. The UCLA won all 3 games by a 5-0 scoreline so far, but the big test will be against UNC in the quarterfinals. Ashley has not been pushed up as much as she was earlier in the season now that Haley Mace is back from national team duty and instead seems to be playing more outside midfield and providing service instead of playing as a secondary striker.
All right, UCLA, calm down with all the talent. That's amazing.
They're doing all right. They're doing all right.
Katie Sutton is scouting Katie Cousins, the 22-year-old American midfielder for the University of Tennessee. Katie says the Volunteers are going to the Elite 8. They beat Arizona 3-2 and Texas A&M 3-0 on Friday and Sunday, respectively. Cousins had an assist against Arizona and an excellent nutmeg against A&M's best defender in the second game. This is their first trip to the Elite 8 in school history, and they'll be playing defending champion Stanford this weekend.
Best of luck, Tennessee.
Well, we're excited about this, right? Because didn't Katie Cousins come through Richmond? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah. Go Tennessee, go Vols.
Go Vols, there you go. Ian Shank.
I'm a brave man rooting against Stanford there. Right?
I also went to school in Kentucky, so I don't feel comfortable saying go Volunteers. Ian Shank, scouting Fernando Arce Jr., 21-year-old American midfielder on loan at Dorados from Tijuana. I think Fernando Arce Jr. is one of the players I most want to interview in the next couple of years because
tell me about Diego.
He has become a key part of Maradona's midfield at Dorados. Yes. Arce had 42 completed passes, the most of either team, as Dorados knocked out Mineros on the road in the Asensio Amequis playoff quarterfinals on Saturday. Arce played the full 90 in both legs, spending nearly the entire away leg on a yellow after picking up an 11th minute caution.
Did you see the weird rumor that Usain Bolt has been rumored to be thinking about something to do with Dorados?
Oh, boy.
But maybe he could be a signing?
Oh, boy.
Be a bit of a publicity stunt?
I mean, it's getting... Okay. That's getting weirder and weirder.
I don't have any more information. I don't know how concrete that is. But I could see a club that hired Maradona as their coach could also hire Usain Bolt as their striker.
And then Landon Donovan comes in?
Todd Brannan is scouting Cameron Carter-Vickers, the 20-year-old American defender on loan at Swansea from Tottenham. Todd says Joe Roden, the 21-year-old Swansea defender who Cameron Carter-Vickers was brought in to provide cover for while he has developed quite nicely this season. Thank you very much. Why is Swansea prioritising Roden over Carter-Vickers, you may ask? Well, Roden was born in Swansea, joined the team at age 8, signed a professional contract with Swansea at age 15 and captained their U23 team. He's been keeping CCV on the bench and Todd concludes that the January window cannot get here soon enough. Mm-hmm. So back to Tottenham, then we sort of recycle and send CCV somewhere else.
That seems to be the trend, yes. Jeff and Sam Huffman scouting Mukwele Akele, the 21-year-old American attacker for Villarreal B. Big week for Mukwele. During the international break, he was selected to train with the Villarreal senior team. He also played a major role in the first-place Villarreal B's 3-1 win over Espanyol B. He had a classy 1v1 move against a defender in the box, allowing him to put in an excellent cross for a tap-in for the first goal, and he had the MLS assist for the third.
David Majewski is scouting Shaq Moore, the 22-year-old American right back on loan at Royce from Levante. David says Shaq Moore started at left back instead of his usual right back spot in the US's friendly against Italy, picked up a yellow card in the first half, I remember, and a late substitution allowed him to finish the match as a right back. On Moore's first half performance, Matthew Doyle, I've heard of him, on Twitter said, quote, he looks way more comfy on the left than the right, unquote. At club level, he has seen no playing time in the last 4 matches for Royce, who are currently in the Segunda División relegation zone.
Not ideal on both accounts. Scott and Luke Jarbo scouting Bukayo Saka, 17-year-old English attacker for Arsenal. Again, Bukayo Saka made his second appearance for the England U19s this weekend, coming on in the 90th minute of the Young Lions' 3-1 win over Iceland.
Mark Gardberg is scouting Patrick Schick, the 22-year-old Czech striker for Roma.
I'm shaking my head right now. I just want you to know that.
Why?
You'll see.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Mark says, Schick scored a lovely lob to lead the Czech Republic to a late 2-1 victory over the wild and crazy guys from Slovakia. I know the reference, but I don't get why that applies to Slovakia. Securing Czech promotion to UEFA Nations League A. Interestingly, Schick's inability to score in Serie A has led rumours that Roma will send the bounced Czech, that pun is dedicated to you, Taylor, to Arsenal as a swap for Aaron Ramsey.
Everett Wolf scouting David Brooks.
Wait, what's the Wild and Crazy Guys reference?
I don't know. I think he included in there like Steve Martin and who's the other? Oh, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah. Reference anybody? I think so. Maybe it was just he wanted to reference that.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Might could be. Everett Wolf scouting David Brooks, 21-year-old Welsh midfielder for Bournemouth. Brooks got the start for Wales in both international break fixtures, logging an impressive 90 minutes in a 2-1 loss to Denmark in the UEFA Nations League. He created a handful of chances and looked dangerous down the right flank. He then started and lasted 59 minutes in a friendly against Albania and played more centrally, but didn't quite have the same threat.
My memory is that the UEFA Nations League, Wales finished second, behind Denmark, but ahead of Ireland, so they just stay where they are, essentially.
Hooray!
Guy Yedwab is scouting Serge Gnabry, whose name I have been pronouncing correctly all this time. 23-year-old German wide forward for Bayern Munich. Guy says Gnabry has finally lit up his senior German national team career with decisive contributions in a friendly against Russia and a Nations League match against the Netherlands. Against Russia, Gnabry found cracks to run between an extremely narrow back three, getting a goal and an assist. Against the Netherlands, Gnabry won a duel against Virgil van Dijk to unleash Timo Werner for an early goal. The front three of Sane, Gnabry and Timo Werner have shaken up the slow, anemic German attack, and Gnabry now has a goal every 70 minutes in his senior career, which probably has to do with the debut hat-trick against San Marino and a lot of injuries to other players.
Maybe possibly. But well done to Serge Gnabry. Well done to all of the other scoutees and the scouts who sent in those reports.
Yeah. Final, I want to give a quick UEFA Nations League update. We now know that it's going to be the Netherlands, England, Portugal, and Switzerland in the UEFA Nations League final. If you'd like to read more about the UEFA Nations League, my story for The Athletic published this morning. It's a self-plug. It's a Daryl self-plug.
It's a very enthusiastic title as well.
I did not choose that title.
All right.
People should know that whenever you write something, usually the editor gets to choose the title.
And I believe the title was along the lines of why the UEFA Nations League is the greatest thing ever in the history of mankind. Is that about it?
The Athletic editorial staff are even more enthusiastic than I am. If you'd like to find that story, it's in our Twitter feed, or you can go to theathletic.com.
But they're not paying for the show, so let's just move right on.
Yeah, it's not an ad right now. They may be advertisers again in the future. I actually think our old code, theathletic.com/TSSOctober, still works for 40% off.
What are you doing?
I'm just supporting friendly advertisers.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you to everybody for the scouting. Thank you to everybody for the questions. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you again for listening. We will be back after Thanksgiving on Sunday night/Monday morning. You gotta slash